Okay, hopefully we're back. I'm really sorry about this, guys. I was settling in for a good game of Dragonfall, and it looks like tonight's going to be the night where everything wants to work against me. So I appreciate you guys hanging out and bearing with me through these troubled times. I think what I'm going to do is cluster everybody up before I open that door. Actually, I'll move. I should probably try and move Eiger close. Oh, I can't. Well, they were expecting me. I guess I can try this. That's true, although I think I've been having enough technical difficulties that I wouldn't mind the fantasy of everything working perfectly at least once. But your point is very well taken, Akakadak. I was going to say, I think the fact that I am able to do a stream at all is an indication of a very good state of my life. Although I will say that this time it looks like the... Oh wow, that's a lot of armor. Okay. I remember this room was painful. Basically what I want to find is something with really high armor penetration for this character. But yeah, so I was talking a little bit. So, I mean, I was trying to be as fair as I can. Wow. I really wish I was allowed to bring different people on this mission. I kind of need to heal her. And her armor's back. Yeah, we'll just do a regular shot. So I was talking a little bit about, or kind of rambling about some of the discussions I was having. Like, I was kind of mentioning the topic. I mean, topic of income inequality is just one example. I'm in a lot of trouble here, actually. Let's try going behind some cover. Okay, at least Minerva took that shot. So yeah, it looks like we wind up using all of our medkits again. That's not good. Yeah, so the income inequality thing. Basically, I don't think that conversation should be, if you read the books that I read, then you would think what I think. That's never been true. Oh. I think that's GG. Oh wait, I can use the Boomona kit. Just throw some gunpowder in the wounds. Okay. So I think... I hate doing this, but I'm gonna have to give this health kit to Minerva. Alright, so we haven't lost, but we're not in a good spot. I kind of want to know what's going on with this locked door here. Yeah, there's literally nothing that I can really touch. So I think I'll just reload, get ready for the next part, and we basically just need to flashbang the hell out of the guy. I saw the gunpowder bit on an episode of Celebrity Deathmatch. It has to work. Yeah. Yeah, I'll try. I'll cap off this insane diatribe I've been going on about. Okay, I have to. Oh, of course I missed. Still works. Okay, does the knee... Yeah, so that imbalances makes them easier to hit. Works for me. Okay, Minerva, don't screw this up. Okay, get in closer. If Eiger dies, I'm just gonna start raging. That's a waste of that ability, actually. Wow. I almost feel bad for saying nasty things about her. Alright. So looks like we'll actually win. Looks like we'll actually get past this horrible mission. I'm in a good mood now. But yeah, so I'll try and make the discussion a little bit more concrete by giving you an example. So in economics, we deal with this idea of rationality. Now, if I think about something that's going to make people behave decidedly irrational, or in a decidedly irrational way, it would be money. Now, fortunately for me, the concept of what emos. I need to sub to the channels that you do act just so I can have your range of expression. Those are beautiful. But what I'm basically doing here... Oh, great. I'm going to shut up for a minute and do some story. Eiger, help me drag this guy back to the warehouse. We're going to find out what he knows. Okay, we are making progress. The engineer lies splayed out on the ground, his body trembling violently. Eiger shoves a bottle up his nose and squeezes. The engineer shudders violently, and then the tremble begins to subside. She glances at you. An aerosol BZD to help treat seizures. Bannock was kind enough to include that in this goodie bag. It won't last long, but it should give Yuli here enough muscular control to answer a few questions. The engineer's voice comes out in a trembling stutter. Fuck you, troll. Eiger raises an eyebrow. See? He's talking already. The engineer's eyes burn with hate. Beads of sweat dot his brow as he struggles to control the tremors that rack his body. He takes a deep breath, holds it, and releases it slowly. The trembling begins to subside. Feeling better, Yuli? Ready to chat? I prefer this option over the other two. It's like, I'm sorry that we had to use that thing on you. Must be terrible having the shakes like that. Strikes me as decidedly servile to a guy who I have no problem shooting if he doesn't give us the right answer. And we've got some questions for you. You better have answers is a little too much of an attempt to be a hard ass. So feeling better, Yuli, ready to chat is sufficiently ambiguous. Slowly the orc's eyes shift from Eiger to you. I know the troll bitch. We have a history. But you are a stranger to me. Are you sure that you have the stomach for this stranger? Not many do. I'm not going to do the stuttering or that. It's I like hamming it up sometimes on streams like this, but I don't think I can do the stutter in a meaningful way. My name is Minerva, and you're going to answer questions one way or the other. Just keep telling yourself that, human. His voice sounds stronger now. The stutter that marred his speech has almost completely faded away. She wasn't telling herself. She slaps him across the face, splitting his lip down the middle. The impact sounds like a gunshot. She was telling you. Eiger leans in toward the engineer. He recoils, grinding the back of his head against the grease-stained Duraplast tiles. You're helpless, a fucking cripple. Her voice comes out in a snarl. But if you answer our questions, things will go easier for you. So tell us, whose payroll are you on? She grabs a fistful of the orc's hair and lifts his head. Her face is a few inches from his. Yeah, I think one thing that I learned from doing some Shakespeare readings in some English classes was that I would occasionally get a compliment about being reasonably good at acting. No, okay, so just because I got a compliment does not think I actually think I'm a good actor. I am not. But I did get occasionally a couple of good compliments. It was like, are you trained or something like that? Like usually they'd say it's like, that was a pretty interesting reading that you just gave on there. And I think the big thing is like if I'm playing, like if you have to read a woman's role, if you have to read something that's completely out of character, you don't need to do a special voice to communicate some kind of idea or some kind of theme behind it. Like, so to me, the reason why you read Shakespeare in an English class and the reason why it's something that's worth reading is that there's more going behind the line than just, the face value. It's the reason why, for the same reason why I chose the one saying is like, are you feeling all right? Ready to answer some questions? There are 100 different ways to read that line. Sometimes the right way is just to say it matter-of-factly and let the context of the situation decide whether it's said menacingly or not. So I don't think you have to give... you can respect your audience. I mean, anytime I'd be reading Shakespeare would be to a room full of people who are just as smart as I am, who are reading the same text, and the same text that's been available for hundreds of years. So what you do is you speak the words in a way that you feel would be appropriate for that situation. Now, you can bring something of yourself in that for sure, but not every angry line needs to be shouted. Not every character needs a silly voice. Sometimes just reading the line honestly will communicate more than what you need to. And in my opinion, it lets the developers speak quite a bit more. Like I think the writers of these games are usually very good at what they do. We usually like playing the games because they have some good writing behind them. And so I feel giving the opportunity to let those words come out on their own, if I can't add anything to them, I think that's the right way to handle it. So I'm sorry I missed Chrono Trigger, though. That's a beautiful game. Tell us who sent you to Schottenest. There is a long pause. Eventually, the engineer looks away. All right, you want to know so badly? I'll tell you. Taminus sent me here. They want to use the Schottenest as a base of operations in Berlin. My point of contact is a ghoul named Beetle. I did the voice stuff with Clara when you did Secret of Mana and Secret Grind, yeah, but that's purely for entertainment when you're solo tough. Yeah, I mean, it's not... I definitely want to avoid... I want to avoid, the generalizations we were talking about a little while ago. It's like... There can be a lot of fun in doing funny voices. I mean, there's a reason why that works really well when you're reading to children, and it works really well when you're reading for adults as well. I think there's a lot of value in something like that, but sometimes it's not an appropriate choice. So it's more of a question of just picking what you want to do. I can definitely imagine myself. I think one of the nice things about it is that it's very hard not to be self-conscious when you read a silly voice. And so if you are with somebody and you read a silly voice, I mean, that's like either through Skype or in person or something like that. But when you do silly voices with someone, you get to let your hair down. Like, you get to be a little more relaxed because both of you are doing something ridiculous and both of you are kind of endorsing each other doing that. Whereas I always feel that you could be somebody who just does not care. And believe me, like, I am very self-deprecating on a lot of things. But when it comes down to the very simple idea of, oh, gee, I better behave differently or this person won't think well of me, like, that is one of the things I don't have a problem with. I do not care what some people think of me, what most people think of me. I value their opinion and I respect them as people, but whether or not they think highly of me or not is not so relevant, I don't think. And again, like, with that in mind, there's always obviously people you look up to. There's people who you value. It's not to suggest that I don't care about people, but like, in the end, their perceptions of me are going to be what they are, and I want to make sure that I am being true to myself, which I would hope aligns with somebody's positive view of me. But I guess the big thing is that the primary focus is not seeking approval. But even though I have that element in myself, like, there's still it's hard to avoid a degree of being self-conscious. There's a degree of being self-conscious about doing silly voices and stuff like that. So having somebody doing the silly thing with you kind of lets you be a little bit more free with that. And how's it going, Endors? Yeah, what a perfect time to walk in, hearing hearing I don't care about things. Now, I gotta talk to you, sir. Because when I went on to set up my Twitch alerts tonight, I noticed that somebody who doesn't go by the name of Endors, but we all know who it is, Endors, gave another extremely generous donation to this stream here. And obviously you sent me the message, but I did not realize that there was a contribution that was made. And so, my belated thanks, and my God, man, please never feel that you need to do something like that. It's appreciated, beyond words, but I needed to get that taken care of right away, because I see that is actually a fairly old event, which for whatever reason I'm only just seeing now. So thank you very much. All right, without silly voices. He leans forward and locks eyes with Eiger. There, you got your intel. Now set me free or kill me. Yuli, Eiger leans back, shaking her head. You wouldn't roll over on an employer this easy. Your rep tells me that much. Who'd the message say it was from? Akadak, who do you think the message says it was from? Okay, actually, that, in fairness, I should be. I don't have. Here's the. So here's a time that it's appropriate for silly voices, because I know there's a very special way that Twitch alerts read these things. Hey, Akadak here. Just thought I'd send you some cash and tell you I appreciate your streaming. I'll let the two of you fight to sort out the author of that message. He raises an eyebrow in a look of mock astonishment. No? No, Eiger's right. You're jerking us around. You wanted a name, I gave you a name. Want more? I can give you those too. I can name you 100 clients who'd love a piece of the Shotten nest. How do you intend to determine who really sent me? I've got a couple of ideas. The engineer smirks. You can try beating the truth out of me. You can try cutting on me. You can get creative with pliers if you like. Every time you hurt me, I'll give you a different name. Yeah, so I mean, I played the game for a while, right? Like, there's a side of me. I'm always happy to give the term as the mysterious benefactor who goes by the name of somebody who is also a friend of this channel. Because I mean, people have reasons for doing what they do, and if somebody doesn't assign their name to it, if they go for an anonymous donation, then I can respect that. But I do, I mean, honestly, like, I think I'm very happy to give credit for that, because I think it's an incredibly kind thing that you're doing. It's something that I'm still having some, you know, it's something I still need to get, you know, get over. It's very weird having somebody give that kind of a support to the stream, because again, like, to me, the biggest thing is having people here to interact with. I love sharing games with people. Nice. Wait, whose bomb is that? Richard Hammer. Nice. Oh, let's read out this quote from Akakadax. It costs nothing to encourage an artist, and the potential benefits are staggering. A pat on the back to an artist could one day result in your favorite film, or the cartoon that you love to get stoned watching, or a song that saves your life. Discourage an artist, and you get absolutely nothing in return ever. And Akakadax, equally important addition. Now, granted, encouraging an artist is free. Oh, where did it go? Oh my god, okay, apparently, apparently Better Twitch TV is trying to translate it. Okay. Now, granted, encouraging an artist is free, but giving them real-life money to support their craft is the greatest thing ever. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't have said it better than Akakadax. I mean, there are some pretty severe limitations on the kind of show that I can put on right now, so the fact that I have people to interact with and share is the biggest reward from being able to stream with you guys. And it's tremendous fun to be able to interact with you individually, because it's no longer just names in a chat box. They're people that I've kind of got to know about, and I've built this wonderful little library of memories in terms of moments that they were here. I mean, people who know what grandpa means and all of the stories that are associated with that. Thank you, Endors. That's a quote that we need to put on there. Okay, I actually need to start getting a bot in here just so we can start attributing quotes onto these. So yeah, being able to have these names that have these set your PCTV translators to Akakadak. Yeah, Alpha 360. How's it? It's good to see you. Speaking of people who know what grandpa means and always make the channel better for being in here, I'm glad I've got to see you again, see you so regularly in the channel. It's starting to, the numbers are starting to grow now. Twitch is always a little wonky in terms of what it tells me as far as people who are watching, but it usually gives me some members in chat, which is kind of what I'm looking for. But yeah, it's the biggest reward that I've gotten out of doing this stream thing is the fact that I've got this little library of memories and people that I can associate with them in terms of when those happened and when we get a chance to share. So I was talking with my brother about the Gods Will Be Watching stream, and if I remember correctly, Endors, that was the first time that you came in. I believe you brought Alpha that same night as well. So this is stuff that always just keeps flowing in. But in fact, he's slumming in your living room, so he's created a giant sausage sandwich. Okay, I can talk a little bit more about the donations thing later, but we'll go through. You're entirely and utterly incapable of art in any form, so artists always blow you away. You have a lot of friends who do creative stuff, mostly music. Nice to see you as well. And I make the sweet, sweet tunes from your mouth. Nice. I didn't know you said. Alpha, did you mention that you sing before? I think that's the first time. It's the first time I can think of being aware of it. But it seems like the sort of thing that might have come up before. That's right. Thank you, Endors. Oh, speaking of which, Claire, I don't know if you guys got to catch Clara, but I put in Antichamber as my sub request for Clara's channel. So she did get to watch she played Antichamber last night. It was the first game that was played. So if you stop by her channel and check out the previous broadcasts, you get to see her losing her mind in that game. I will get back to Antichamber is going to be one of those games that I play on my Monday night streams. Ah, so Alpha 360 is the one with a good voice. that we have not been aware of. Maybe one day we'll get a chance to hear it. Torture me or don't, it'll end all the same way. I'll be dead, you'll know nothing for certain, and my clients will move ahead on their schedule. Help us out then. If you're already dead, why care about being a snitch? Yeah, like, it was pretty fun. I mean, I recommended it based on the Stanley Parable, because I really enjoyed watching that stream. I think the one drawback was that some people weren't feeling it because of the high contrasting colors. They were feeling a little motion sick. So I felt a little bit bad about that, but I'm definitely happy that game was played reasonably successfully. You can car sing extremely shameless. I've never car sang, ever. The engineer snorts. I won't give your she-troll the satisfaction. She wants it. That's why she won't get it. Eiger's hands bunch into fists. She's still smiling, but you can feel the heat of hatred behind her eyes. If you don't start telling me what I want to hear in the next 30 seconds, this is going to get messy. Say nothing. You're a phenomenal singer yourself as long as no one's listening and you're all by yourself. You do your best work in the car during your drive home. I think we're on the same. I don't drive that much, Jack, but no one has better voice than you. That's not true at all, but that's very kind of you to say. This is actually one thing. So I've said it before that, but it's actually the when I was uncomfortable with the sound of my voice. I kind of got over that before I started streaming, but the fact that people actually were bringing it up during the stream was actually something that sort of oriented me towards what my potential strengths would be on Twitch. So that was actually something that helped me sort of find my feet as a broadcaster, such as I am. You know Eiger. He takes the time pronouncing the name, savors it. I'd like to tell you a story. We share so much history, you and I. Eiger says nothing, but her eyes narrow. The engineer continues, his grin broadening. This is a funny story. It's a story about your time in the KSK. A story about futility. I can tell you all about the many lives you've touched, and how the syndicates touched them again afterwards. Would you like that? There's a long pause. Eventually, Eiger turns to face you. Minerva, do me a favor. Sweep the building for intel. Anything we might have missed on your way in. Yeah, I'm on it. Take good care of our friend here. She shoots a disgusted glance at your captive. Yeah, don't worry. I will. Chemical storage barrels. A light jostle shows that they're completely empty. It looks melted. The cargo container is empty. This generic courier drone has been snapped together out of prefab parts from a dozen manufacturers. It's a cheap utilitarian thing, remarkable only in that it's so incredibly plain. A half-bright teenager could cobble something like this together in an afternoon. The drone sits in a charging cradle, its turbofan unpowered. A cheerful green light blinks on its front panel to remind you that it's still active. You can see the silhouette of something under the flimsy plastic dome of the drone's cargo compartment. Whatever this thing was here to deliver, it's still carrying it. Pop the lid on the cargo container. You depress the catch of the container's plastic lid. Rather than swinging open, the lid slides back to reveal a touchpad. It looks as though this thing is password locked. Examine the drone more closely. Taking a closer look, you notice something strange. There's a set of electrical contact plates lining the lip of the drone's cargo compartment. It's a fair bet that this thing is outfitted with an anti-tampering system of some kind. Enter a password? No, I gotta cancel. I don't have drone control, so... I'll smash it if I have to, but I think it'd be better to see if I have some alternative. There's a small ledger lying on the crate. The cover is cheap leatherette, and the paper is tissue-thin newsprint. Leaf through the pages. The pages are filled with to overflowing with handwritten text. You don't recognize the language, but judging by the accent marks, you'd guess it's a Scandinavian tongue. While you can't read it, the arrangement of the text tells you that the ledger is primarily being used as an address book. Pocket the book and move on. Forklift's tires are flat. Looks like it hasn't been used in years. Alright, I think I've got what I can investigate until I open this door, so I'll try and close off that thing I was talking about for the econ discussion. One of the examples I was trying to give in terms of where econ can, or like discussions of econ can go wrong is when we talk about this idea of rationality. So you and I probably have some pretty common ideas about what rationality means. However, it has a special definition in terms of economics, which is that it has basically you tend to talk about rational preferences as being ones that are transitive and complete. And basically that's just saying that between any two options you can express some preference, either saying that you like one greater than the other or equal or something like that. And then in addition, that you pick the thing that you like the most, right? So if I like tuna fish sandwiches more than ham sandwiches, and I have a tuna and a ham sandwich in front of me, I'm going to pick the tuna one consistently. So when we talk about rationality, that's really all that we're saying. It doesn't have anything to do with about the ability to calculate very quickly, or you don't believe in human rationality? Well, that's completely fair. The thing I was saying before too is that if I want to take a colloquial definition of rationality, I'd say the one thing that doesn't where people won't behave, rationally about is usually about money. But if you have the economic definition of rationality, which is just you take the things that you prefer the most, that's not actually a very controversial assumption. And yet when I have a discussion with somebody who is outside of it, there's quite a bit of time spent talking about how people aren't, massive calculating machines. But it's not actually an assumption that I require to be able to do the things that I've learned in class. The only thing that I require is that people have preferences about things and that they be able to express them. So there's more I can say on that, but I just wanted to kind of take an example of something where ideally the collegiate environment of Green College would give me something rather than spending 45 minutes establishing, rationality as an uncontroversial assumption, that I'd be able to say it's like, here's where we begin and this is kind of where it leads, and just have a slightly more elevated discussion. I think people usually decide what they want to believe, then rationalize it. Yeah, that's perfectly true. And I should note as well, like that picture of rationality is perfectly compatible with what I just described, right? In the end here, this is just merely talking about expressing a preference between two things and going for the thing that you like the most. Saying that somebody is irrational in the economic sense is effectively saying that they're presented a tuna and ham sandwich option and then saying, well, which sandwich would you like? And they throw up their hands and say, I don't understand the question, and walk away. So it's just, a little bit... to me... obviously rationality brings certain idea. Like, when you say that word, it brings something into people's minds. But I don't have a better name for describing that, right? I would say a rational person is somebody who is consistent in their, in their behavior. So, the deeper, and that's not to say, by the way, that the deeper philosophical issues aren't interesting, right? So the idea that, people decide what they want to believe and then rationalize it after the fact, that's an interesting perspective on the way people make decisions and the way they, on the way that they operate. And that's one that's absolutely worthy of discussion. But for the purposes of establishing something like, let's say, the first welfare theorem, I don't require that view. And then what the conversation later would be, with somebody who maybe isn't a trained economist, would be, it's like, given my understanding here, given this framework that I'm working in, and given your understanding of the way people make decisions, is there anything that we can say about the way the world works or the way people make their choices? So, As you approach, you can see the engineer's chest is sheeted with blood. Most of it seems to be streaming from his nose, which has been crushed into a wad of bloody meat. Eiger turns to face you. Her bunched fists are dripping red. Find anything? She speaks to you through clenched teeth. Her voice sounds strained. Her cheeks are flushed. Having fun? I'm not doing this for fun. I'm doing this because he deserves it. If you knew half of what this bastard has done, if you'd heard the things he just told me, you'd do the same. Fair enough. Just don't get carried away. We need him. She pauses, then turns away. Just tell me what you found. Yes, please. The engineer's voice is thick and wet. He smiles through a set of gore-streaked teeth. Enlighten us. I found this ledger. I don't recognize the language, but it looks Scandinavian. Eiger leaves the journal, quickly flipping the Soycast-staged pages. Norwegian, maybe. I'm thinking that this is written in Bokmal. She frowns. I can't read it, but it looks like a shipping manifest. Yeah, something like that. There are a lot of addresses in there. She rifles through the pages, flipping the cheap paper with her thumbnail. Looks like addresses all the way through. Some are annotated, but I can't see any names. 2/3 of the way down through the book, she stops short. Find something interesting? Wordlessly, she turns the journal around. At the top of the page, written in a different hand, is a single word. It's written in English, but you can understand it all the same. She nods. Yeah, not particularly helpful without a full date, but I guess it's something. Of course, Wednesday might not refer to a day of the week at all. It could be a code for something. Taken out of context like this, it's impossible to say. So what do you make of this? This should be good. Eiger ignores him. Her gaze remains fixed on the book. It might be nothing, or it might mean that he's back in bed with the Lobachevsky syndicate. The engineer holds his silence. Is that it, Yuli? Are you taking order from your old bosses again? He pauses a moment before croaking out an answer. Maybe. Who's to say? What's happening Wednesday, Yuli? His mouth twists into a bloody grin. This Wednesday? I'll be putting your mother to work on the street corner. And when she's all worn out, I'll give your father a shot at the job. You can do better than that. Go die in a ditch. Did you find anything else? We need to be sure about this before moving forward. I must have missed something. I'll keep searching. Endors, without a doubt, the decisions are still matters of contention, but it's notable that people are barely getting past the maybe of changing their minds and having fully arguable complex patterns that they can discuss. Notes the fact that they're already balancing heavy cognitive dissonance. Yeah. And to give you an example in terms of like the idea of rationality is that in an economic context is that it's not making a claim in terms of what those preferences are. So, I could put altruism as something that somebody actually wants to. So, I mean, most people don't associate economics with anything but everybody's in it for themselves. They're going to try and get as much as they can in order to maximize utility. But in order to maximize my utility, one of the things that I could value is altruism, right? I don't want to live in a world where it's possible for me, or even if I want to, like, not even make this about myself and just say, in general, I think it's unseemly that in an affluent society like ours, there are people who potentially go to bed hungry. Or, well, no, with certainty, people go to bed hungry. That's not something that sits right with me. And so a utility maximizing allocation, which is just a fancy way of saying that, the ideal setup, that thing that we're usually looking for in economics, would be something that can incorporate altruism. Likewise, I could also come up with a model which says that everybody is a complete bastard, does not care about anybody else, and here's the utility maximizing outcome for that one. So there's a lot of work. This is why it's really interesting to work with other disciplines, right? Because other disciplines are possibly better equipped to say about where these preferences come from and what they are. Economics tries to deal with a given set of preferences, or makes very uncontroversial assumptions. Like the thing is, you're not going to make any progress if you don't make some assumptions, but at least the more defensible ones will allow you to say some interesting things about the world without completely falling to pieces once some piece of evidence comes up contrary to your assertion. So a good example of this would be, there's like an idea known as quasi-linear preferences. I'm not going to go into like the model in terms of how it works or something like that, but it's something that I don't actually believe exists in terms of people's behavior, but it's a nice little approximation that can allow you in a situation where there's like one good that people will buy no matter what, but they will only buy to a certain quantity and then they'll go to something else. So rather than trying to, it's like, I can think of things like that, right? Like, I'm going to make sure there's a certain amount of food in me, even if I don't have, even if I don't have a house, I need to make sure that I get a certain amount of nourishment every day. So if my resources are such that I can't afford food, or, that I can't afford housing, or I can only choose between the two, I'm with certainty going to always go for the food. And then, of course, when I have an income which is more like what I really have, I can afford both, so I will eat a certain amount of food, but beyond that, I'm not going to eat anymore. That's not a good example because, obviously there's a great variation in terms of how much food people eat and what kind. I like certain types of food more than other. Going for a meal at EXP also involves, being with friends and things like that, so I would prefer that to, let's say, just, sitting down on a bench eating lettuce and bread. But yeah, I mean, again, the idea of where those preferences come from is something that usually I would be interested in having a conversation with another discipline to see what they can provide on that. The broken body of a human man lies on the floor. His face is a mess of fresh cuts and congealing blood, and his head is oddly deformed. Despite his wounds, his mouth is twisted into a macabre smile. Inspect the body. Kite260, I thought I saw you in the chat. How's it going? It's great to see you again. Judging by the shape of the ganger's head, you'd guess that the skull has been fractured in at least 3 places. The center of his forehead is particularly gruesome. It looks soft, as though the skin were stretched like a tent between shards of broken bone. Looking up, you can see a great smear of gore on the door of the room that you found him in. The implications are clear. This man bashed his own head trying to get out, and he did it with a smile on his face. His hands are badly broken too. You've seen these sorts of injuries after bare-knuckle fistfights, but never anything this severe. This man punched something hard, and went on punching until his hands were reduced to useless slabs of meat. Step away. Yeah, actually, I should mention this. They have a new shot there, the Kappa shot. Oh, Kite, dude, please let me know when you are going to EXP. I would love to meet you. It's where I got to meet Akadak for the first and sadly only time in person. Hopefully that will not be a permanent state of affairs. But let's see. I'm gonna try Wednesday. The plastic lid of the cargo container pops open with a click. Inside, you find what appears to be a homemade SimSense chip. It sits securely in a custom-made plastic bracket. You pop the chip out of the bracket and pocket it. A few seconds later, an angry hissing sound comes from somewhere deep within the drone. Step back. As you step away from the drone, the hissing sound grows into a roar. Bright white sparks spit out from the drone's melting chassis with a streak across the room. You've seen this kind of reaction before. Thermite. Whoever built the drone must have wired it with a self-destruct device. Within seconds, all that's left of the little drone is a molten wreck on the charging cradle. Foul-smelling smoke pours from the remains. You steal another glance at the chip that you recovered and turn away. Yeah, Kite, I know what you're saying. Like, to give you an example, too, like in my own case, my goal now is to go to PAX. I'm not really somebody who does conventions, but the fact that I stream, the fact that there's now so many people that I know in Vancouver and elsewhere who talk about how much fun they have at PAX, what a great environment it is, and the fact that I do actually have some very small designs on game design myself, that seems like an environment that I need to go to. So the beauty of this, of course, is that you never know what life is going to throw your way, and so who knows what happens when I wind up at one PAX now. I have a feeling there's going to be a few faces that I get to see, or sorry, some names that I get to associate with faces by the end of one of those. I don't know when I'll be able to go to PAX, but I think one day it's going to happen, and I'm really going to enjoy it when it does. You're back. Find anything else? I found a body in the other room. From the looks of him, he tried using his head to beat down a steel-reinforced door. By the way, I was playing Outlast earlier this morning. That image that they have of the insane person bashing his head into reinforced concrete, I've definitely got some mental images that I'd rather not. Interesting, but not unusual in these parts. There are all kinds of drugs that can make a person act that way, and most of them aren't hard to get in a place like the Shotton Nest. Have you found anything else? There's a pair of courier drones in the other room. No markings, they look custom built. One of them had been slagged, the other one had this chip in the storage compartment. That was one of the reasons why I wanted to talk with him before I went back there, because I said the Wednesday thing mostly because if he uses it as like a sarcasm answer, then it's going to be a password. It's not going to be a contact or something like that. So when you produce the trip, the engineer's eyes widen slightly. He turns his head and cough rack his body. So here's the thing I would do. I don't know if this is where the story is going to go, but this guy obviously does not fear Eiger. I'm almost certain he is going to fear what happened in that other room. So if he didn't give the name of his employer, the very first thing is I'd threaten him with the chip. Interesting. This means something to you, Yuli? Eiger takes the chip from you and holds it to the light. No identifying markings. I've seen enough BTLs in my time to know one when I see it, but this is different. This has been modified somehow. Go ahead and slot it, bitch. It'll take you on the ride of your life. Eiger raises an eyebrow. Smack him for me, will you? I'm busy. Yeah, I'll hit him. Your fist connects with a ruined meat on the engineer's nose. He coughs, chokes out his own blood, and then spits a wad of it onto your chest. You don't know what you're holding, slag. He spits the words out like venom. His eyes are locked on the chip in Eiger's hand. Slowly he licks his lips. You don't deserve to touch that chip. I thought this guy was a professional. He is. I know his rep. I know that he's much too careful to get himself addicted to Sims. She glances at the engineer. His eyes are locked on the chip. If these things have him hooked this badly, then they must be even more addictive than standard BTL. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. So I don't have the proper etiquette, so I'll say that's a frightening thought. You're telling me the last thing we need is more Sim junkies on our streets. She turns to face the engineer. You got anything to add to that, Yuli? You have no idea how wrong you are about all of this. He struggles to rise from the floor, but his muscles refuse to cooperate. Finally, he gives up with a scowl. If I could move my arms, I'd take that chip from you and I'd show you what it does. I'm sure you would. She glances over her shoulder at you. Good find, Minerva. We've struck a nerve. Any other thoughts? Yeah, actually. I think I might know where the other chip went. Remember that body I found in the other room? Yeah. Yeah, good thought. Go check it out, but be quick. I don't know how long it'll be before we have company here. I'm on it. The ruined body lies crumpled on the floor. Its fractured skull glistens wetly in the light. Search for the missing chip. Peeling back a patch of matted hair, you find something the casual viewer would have missed. The man had a chip jack. It's a cheap model, sufficient for loading SimSense chips and BTLs, but little else. It doesn't take you much effort to pry it open. Inside the chip jack, you find a glob of plastic. It looks as though whatever this guy was running melted down sometime after he slotted it. A chip jack like this couldn't generate enough heat to destroy a SimSense chip. The only logical conclusion is that the chip itself was wired to melt down after use. Take the burned out chip and leave. As far as, I guess I should talk about game stuff in this. One of the things I'm thinking that I should improve other than firearms is actually charisma, because not having street etiquette has really cost me a lot of times on this one, and it's something, especially in a state like Berlin, is probably one of the ones that'll be most useful for me. But I only have so many karma points. I don't know if I want to make myself more combat effective, which I know I'm going to need, or more of the charisma options, which, depending on how close I am to the end of the game, may or may not actually be something I need to use. The engineer's eyes remain locked on the chip. His face has gone pallid white, and his shirt is drenched with sweat. His eyes bulge, and he's breathing heavy. Eiger glances up from your manic captive and looks you in the eye. Find what you were looking for? Yeah, I plied this chip jack open and found a blob of melted plastic inside. It was still warm to the touch. Eiger examines the remnants of the chip in your fingers. I've heard of things like this before. Single-use SIMs, designated to self-destruct after they've been slotted. Keeps the customers from reusing the same BTL over and over again. I'd say you found your missing chip. Let's see. Yeah, I'll do. Yeah, I agree, but the ganger who slotted this wasn't blissed out like some normal sim junkie. It was almost the opposite. He looked wild, like a madman. Madman. The engineer lets out a chuckle. It's a hoarse barking sound. You don't know a damn thing. I know we have something that you want, something you're willing to die for. Death is nothing. Nothing! If you've seen what I've seen, you would know for yourselves. The chip, it opens your eyes. Slot one, and you become a god. Eiger stares at him, her expression flat. The engineer sneers. I too was a skeptic, and then the wolf caught me, and the raven opened my eyes. And now at last, I can see. Suddenly he lurches forward. Every muscle in his body goes tight, and the cord's down on his neck. Give me the ship. It was promised to me. I need it. Tell us who you're working for, and it's all yours. The engineer spits out a mouthful of blood. It hits the tile floor with a sickening splat. He grinds his teeth and snarls out a single word. Winter night. There's a moment of silence. Finally, Eiger speaks. Never heard of him. Of course you haven't, bitched. If you had, you'd already be dead. They don't leave loose ends. His body begins to tremble. It looks like the drugs are wearing off. They have money, she-troll. Money and influence enough to put the syndicates to shame. Even I cannot say how much. But I do know what I've seen is just the tip of the spear. Alright, let's say that you're telling the truth, and some sort of secret society is behind this. What do they want in the Schotten nest? They do not tell me these things. All I know is what they want is that they want to store things here. Crates, boxes, shipped from all over. No cargo inspections, and no traces back to them. What are they shipping in? Weapons? Drugs? More of these BTLs? He eyes her incredulously. You think that I asked them? It's not my place to know. All that I know is what was promised to me. Give me the chip. His voice comes out in a shivering screech. You promised. She promised you the chip. Eiger smiles at the engineer. Slowly she pulls a knife from her belt. Its serrated edge glints in the night light. I, on the other hand, didn't offer you a goddamn thing. She's got you there. Eiger leans in to look the engineer in the eye. She grins. Goodbye, Yuli. She plunges her blade into the engineer's throat. The orc lets out a startled gurgling sound, thrashes, and dies. Eiger wipes her hands clean and looks up, an expression of grim satisfaction on her face. Well, that takes care of that. Thanks for the assist, fearless leader. No problem, but we aren't done yet. We still have Winter Night to deal with. Can't do it, fearless leader. What you're suggesting is beyond the scope of our capabilities. I don't have any contacts in Norway. We wouldn't even know where to begin looking for Winter Night. And if we found them, what then? The two of us aren't going to stop an international conspiracy on our own. We're good, but we're not that good. You've got a point there. We'll let the Flux State handle it. Good call. Now, there's just one more thing I want to do before we head back home. She gestures at the engineer's lifeless body. We still need to search the bastard. Who knows? Maybe he has some additional evidence on him, or in him. Could be that he has hardware storage. We won't know until we go digging. I'll leave you to it. Like hell you will. Get in here and help out. Time passes. The job is long and unpleasant, but eventually you find something. A hidden storage compartment in one of the engineer's cyber arms. Deactivated as the cyberware is, it takes some prying to get it open, but Eiger leans in and puts some muscle into it. With a metallic snapping sound, the compartment yawns open. Eiger reaches in and pulls out a cylindrical object about the size of a beer can. She inspects it and a smile creeps over her face. Does that mean something to you? Yeah, actually, it's a pulse grenade. Last I heard, the Russian military were developing them as crowd dispersal devices. This was years ago. Looks like Yuli kept a memento from his time in the Spetsnaz. She examines the grenade with a critical eye. Looks like a typical Russian engineering. Clunky, but functional. If I took this thing apart, I bet I could figure out exactly how they made it. Anything else in there? She dips her hand into the secret compartment one more time. No, not that I can... Without a warning, the engineer's cyber arms begin to twitch. His body bucks convulsively, and his dead eyes stare straight ahead. Eiger snatches her hand back and steps forward. Sir Wedgie, how's it going? What the heck? The engineer's body surges forward, a violent convulsive motion. His eyes bulge out of his skull, then his chest evaporates in a spray of light. As you watch, the chemical fire that rages from the engineer's body blackens his flesh and spits sparks across the room. It's the same reaction that you saw when the drone went up, a thermite reaction. His employer is Winter Knight. They must have implanted that thing in him. Yeah, must have. I'm willing to bet that if we hadn't used the cyberware deactivator on him, he'd have gone up before he had the chance to spill any names. If you were looking for further proof, I think this was it. Yeah, looks that way. Let's go. People need to know about this. This is an unusually grim mission. I definitely preferred the glory one. I think the glory is probably going to be my favorite mission out of all of them. But one of the things that I liked about this story, other than its relative difficulty for a hero like mine, is sometimes Shadowrun campaigns can be a little too clean. And I think, the U-Bahn whisks you back towards the Kreutz Bazaar, Eiger standing by your side. The image of the engineer's body disintegrating in flame replays itself over and over in your mind. The bright flash, the shower of sparks, the overpowering stench of sizzling meat. A blue-green afterimage hangs suspended in the center of your field of vision, and it refuses to be blinked away. From what Eiger told you, the engineer was a menace, an international criminal at the top of his game. As you watched, he was consumed from within by a device that marked him as disposable. The rattle of the U-Bahn car coming to an halt shakes you from your reverie. You're home. Yeah, that definitely is one way to tie up potentially loose ends. So the thing is, like, a lot of Shadowrun games can potentially be quite clean. But when you think about, like, what this game is about, like, the idea of cyberware, right? Plugging hardware into yourself is messy. It's something that you don't, any medical procedure that you think about is never going to bring up these really pleasant thoughts. And I mean, one idea that could potentially come, I don't know if this is actually explored in Shadowrun, but here's a simple idea, right? You've got a piece of cyberware, reasonably valuable commodity, right? So does a world like Shadowrun need to deal with the problem of stealing cyberware from people? Now, this is also like urban legends of, like, people stealing kidneys from you and things like that. So it probably would follow under that, which is something that people talk about being afraid of more than something that actually comes up. But the big thing, I mean, all of these are criminals, right? These are not necessarily good or nice people. However bad the engineer was, personally, the way I would run this character, I wouldn't agree with what happened to him. But in this case, it was Eiger's mission, and it was one where, I mean, I would also say that I'm playing this character as something of a pragmatist. So in this case, if I want her in the respect of Eiger, or, on her side, if I want her loyalty during missions, then when she's in charge on her own mission, I'll come alongside with hers. So that you'll notice that in this case, I let Eiger do the things that she wanted, but I wouldn't necessarily have, I wouldn't have been the one to kill him. Yeah, I agree, Akadak. Like, it's definitely a game that should be about unpleasantness. I think sometimes, too, it's maybe a reflection in terms of the GM that you have, like, for pen and paper ones. I didn't actually get to watch, I didn't play the SNES one, but I did play the Genesis one, which I thought was pretty interesting. But I think the other thing too is, like, we were talking, I mentioned, like, income inequality as being an economic topic that people are interested in now. Probably have always been interested in, but something that's in the zeitgeist. Like, Shadowrun is a perfect vehicle to be exploring those ideas with, right? Because, yeah, it's a product of the 80s and the 90s where you've got, the fear, like, this is one of the things to sort of indicate the time, right? Once upon a time, people were worried about Japanese corporations, taking over everything. Now people don't talk a lot about Japan other than the problems that it's having. But, this very large concentration of wealth and sort of the undermining of nations in favor of these large corporate entities. These are topics that are coming up today, right? You've got a fight between China and Google. I think Google ultimately caved on the Chinese thing, right? But it's a really interesting setting, and it's one that, as far as I'm concerned, lends itself to, you can definitely play like superheroes in the shadows if you want, but I don't necessarily think it always does as much justice to the kinds of themes that Shadowrun can deal with. Here's another example, like something that, you generally want to have a pretty fearless GM with, but I think Shadowrun is a really interesting environment where you can explore ideas of racism, right? In this case, these are this is exactly where good fiction comes about. Like in this case, it's literal races, right? So where somebody, might be very uncomfortable dealing with, a story about, let's say, white supremacists, who are, singularly unpleasant people. I was canvassing for a political party, and I have actually met one. That was a meeting for sure. Obviously, the political party was not one that he belonged to, just so I can clarify. The last thing I want to say is, I was involved in politics, and I met a bunch of white supremacists. There was one white supremacist that I met while canvassing. But, it's interesting that when you introduce real races, so like William Gibson, the father of cyberpunk through Neuromancer, apparently really didn't like Shadowrun. He says, they took, cyberpunk and then added Tolkien in it. He's just not that interested in it. But once you actually have legitimate races in there, it's a way that you can deal with a very uncomfortable subject in a way that's palatable enough to bring up the idea, but can still be hard hitting enough to to tell you something about the world. I don't know, this, I'm also bringing a little bit of myself into it. There's something about racism to me that is just uniquely, just awful. It's something that I find, it's one of those things that just really gets me. So, I'm blowing all my money on, trauma kits. Sadly can't get anything else, but it'll be good to distribute. But yeah, so that's another example of a story that I think would be good for this environment. Again, the important thing is as long as you can do it honestly, right? You don't have to deliberately do unpleasant topics for the sake of being unpleasant. But I think the beauty of environments like this are the ability to sort of deal with issues like that, that you normally can't face or can't encounter. Yeah, you know what? I actually haven't read any R.A. Or no, that's not true. I've read one R.A. Salvatore book, but I wish I've read more. Just a word about what I'm doing here for my character as well. So I'm capping out range combat at 5 for now because it gives me Deadeye. It'd be really great if I could do headshot. I don't see any advantage to moving it beyond that. But in this case here, the way I'm reasoning it is that it's going to cost me, 5 levels in rifle of karma to get it. So I want to at least get my quickness to where it needs to be. Or sorry, my range combat to where it needs to be. Then I'm going to need to raise my quickness, then my ranged combat to 6 and 7 to do the headshot. So that's probably going to be a point where I do a little bit of charisma just to get my next level of etiquette. And then we'll think about what we're doing next. So confirm. He really pushes the idea of racism as an obstacle it's difficult to overcome. He has a dark elf running around helping the goodly races of the world, but he has a very wonderful way of taking through fantastic character development and growth. Yeah, that's exactly what these kinds of stories should do. I definitely like some films with some unpleasant things in them. One of the films that I saw when I was in middle school was A Clockwork Orange, and that that movie still blows me away. And I also know some people who were very upset by that movie. They thought it was immoral that my dad let me watch that movie at that age. And it was just because, like, to me, I understood what the movie was about and why it was an important movie and the ideas that it was exploring. And then there are people who only saw that as just this, presentation of unpleasant things to look at for 90 minutes. And the important thing for me in that determination is that, you show the unpleasant things as part of either a reflection of life, because, there are two sides to that equation, right? I think sometimes we maybe focus a little bit too much on the negative, and we make a lot of movies about really unpleasant things. Or sometimes, we do the opposite, which is we focus too much on a squeaky clean world where there isn't a lot of moral ambiguity or a lot of problems. And neither of these is true, right? There's really wonderful things that are happening every day. There's really terrible things that are happening every day. You've got somebody who, as Bill Gates pointed out, right? Somebody who could be making a lot of money as a doctor anywhere else in the world, has put any ambitions of career, put any other, concerns behind, has gone to a developing country and has dedicated him or herself to making life better for a small group of people, doesn't get any recognition. These are nameless people, right? And yet in that same country, or, at least in the same region, you are going to have people very deliberately starved, because starvation is one of the oldest methods of mass extermination. Famines that are not a product of climate change or, a bad harvest or not having the appropriate technology, but a very concentrated effort to say that I don't like this group of people for whatever reason. And I think it's not just enough to get rid of them and eliminate them from the world, but I'm going to do it in a way that they just waste away through lack of nourishment. In the same area, these two things are happening. One of the most noble things that people can do, just this anonymous kind of giving of one's life and talents towards making life better for people, and this institutionalized violence against, again, equally anonymous people in this case, people that, somebody's never met, somebody that will, they'll never get to know, but for whatever reason, they've allowed some kind of hate to cause them to do that. So I think the best fiction are the ones that recognize that both things are capable of happening in the world. And if you show something unpleasant, it is in the service of telling us something about life and about the world. And if you show something beautiful, that, in my mind, is usually something that's worthwhile on its own. But again, just saccharine feel-good stuff usually actually isn't that beautiful. Usually it's just, you kind of know that you're being emotionally manipulated. So that's why I like stories that I like Pixar movies, because Pixar movies don't have, the protagonist beating somebody to a bloody pulp. But there's still those elements of like character development, and you learn, Toy Story, you get to learn about growing up. You get that fantasy that every child has had, that the toys come alive when you turn the lights off. But I also like A Clockwork Orange, which has, just about everything that you're not allowed to show in movies in it. All right. I'm not going to get anything from... I think the only thing I'm going to get would be from Eiger or Glory, so let's see what's going on there. Minerva, what can I do for you? We should talk about what happened to the engineer. She nods. Agreed. I'm ready to go over it if you are. So the engineer was working for a secret society. I wasn't expecting that. Neither was I. She frowns. Part of me is still having trouble believing it, but it's true. Yuli wasn't lying. I could see it in his eyes. Have you been able to do any digging on Winternight? No, there isn't much reliable information out there. Whoever these guys are, they're very good at information control. None of my contacts could find anything but rumor and conjecture, and most of that is too crazy to even consider. How crazy are we talking here? Completely insane. Stories about magical nukes and the end of the world. Fenris shamans, Ragnarok, that kind of thing. She shakes her head. Like I said, nuts. Sounds like the next Shadowrun campaign. Well, no, that's... Hong Kong's going to be the next Shadowrun campaign. There's a lot of crazy things going on in this world. That doesn't mean they're not real. She nods slowly. Yes, there are, and no, it doesn't. But this is just far too out there for me to accept. It's far more likely that they release these stories themselves to throw people off whatever they're really doing. Anyway, we stopped in Cold and shot and Nest. Whatever their business is, whatever they was going in those crates that the engineer was having shipped there, isn't our problem anymore. Crates Bazaar is safe. On that front, at least. I hope you're right. Chin up, fearless leader. We did good back there. Besides which, we still have a dragon to worry about. When I left you in that room to search for clues, the engineer told you something. Something that pushed you over the edge. Her eyes narrow. That son of a bitch said a lot of things. What of it? What do you think? I want to know what he told you. With all due respect, that's none of your business, Minerva. Isn't it? You beat the tar out of that man because of what he told you. As your team leader, I need to know why that happened. It takes a long time for her to respond. When she does, her voice carries a tone of resignation. You really want to know? Alright, fine, I'll tell you. He told me about a bunch of Polish towns that my unit swept for syndicate activity. He told me how the mob poured back in right after we left, and what they did to the people who had accepted our help. He told me about the beatings, the rapes, the killing rooms, and the torture, and worse. He relished in describing it, the relentless, hideous barbarism of it all meant to teach some sort of lesson. I think that's the cruelest part of this entire story. Those people, they didn't need a lesson in how terrible life can be. They live with that every day. Yuli seemed to find all of this hilarious. Yeah, I know that he was pushing my buttons on purpose. And yeah, I know that he was trying to make me lose control. But the hell with it, he deserved a good beating. Yuli didn't pull any punches, so I didn't pull any punches. If you have a problem with that, you can go and get fucked. My problem isn't with Yuli getting punished. It's the fact that you let him play you. Maybe, but I can't ignore the possibility that he wasn't playing me, and that these things did happen. She grits her teeth. That'd be a bitter pill to swallow, Minerva. If I leave things where they stand, there'll always be some hope that he was lying. But if I dig into this and find out he was telling the truth, if I find out that none of what we did meant anything... Even if he was telling the truth, that doesn't invalidate what your unit was doing over there. Doesn't it? Our actions might have drawn attention to those people, made them targets. You and your team were doing good over there. Whatever the Mafia did afterward on them, is on them, not you. She gives you a brusque nod. You're right, it isn't. No more moping about, I promise. And I will look into this, Minerva. Wherever this trail leads me, I'll follow it, and I won't stop until I find the truth. I'm willing to see you through this if you want the help. She shakes her head. Thanks, but no. Not now, at least. At some point after we're done with what we're doing. But I'll look into this. I'll get the truth. Whatever it might be. But I'm not going to do it today. Sounds like your priorities are in the right place. She nods. I'd like to think so. Now let's change tack. Is there anything else from the run that you'd like to go over? She folds her arms across her chest. If you have any thoughts, I'd like to hear them. You said that you could reverse engineer the pulse grenade that you pulled from the engineer. Any luck with that? Yeah, actually. It wasn't too difficult to pull the thing apart and see what made it tick. Making one of my own was a different story, but I got it in the end. She reaches into her desk and grabs a cylindrical object. Gently, she lifts it up and hands it to you. Meet the newest addition to my arsenal. I call it the Voltac grenade? It's based on the same principles as the Russian pulse grenade, with a few tweaks of my own. Nice. You said that these things were designed for crowd control? Originally, yeah. Mine has a lot more bite, though. I bumped up the amperage quite a bit. When that thing goes off, it'll shut down both the nervous system and cook the organs of anyone in its blast radius. Hand back the grenade. Sounds nasty. She nods, tucks the weapon back into her desk. It is. You wouldn't want to be on the wrong end of one of these. For now, I've only managed to make one Voltec grenade, but they aren't the easiest thing in the world to manufacture, or the cheapest. She nods thoughtfully. But I should be able to scrounge up enough raw materials to put a new one together between each run. Sounds good to me. Can we talk about something else? I don't have anywhere to be. If you have questions, ask away. That's all, Eiger. Thanks for the talk. I always wonder about some of these dialogue options. Glory stands, an introspective look on her face. At the sound of your approach, she turns to face you. She nods at you. Thank you for your help at Forestella. I couldn't have done it without you. Speaking of which, I've been meaning to talk to you about that. After things that we saw there, I'm not surprised. Go ahead, Minerva. I'm listening. Harrow got away, just like you said he would. She frowns. Yes, and he's already putting distance between himself and the Schottenbush forest. How do you want to go about tracking him? Finding Harrow is going to be a full-time job. I can't track him down while we still have a great dragon hanging over our heads. After we've dealt with Volcaire and the Firewing, I'll devote myself wholeheartedly to finding that bastard and finishing this. But for now, we need to keep our eyes on the road ahead. What did you wind up doing with the cultists that we rescued? Did you send them back to Samuel? No. He has enough to worry about keeping the people of the Kreutz Bazaar safe. These kids that we rescued, they've been damaged by Harrow's philosophies. They can get better, but it's going to take time. Trying to integrate them into our society too quickly would be dangerous. So where did they go? I took them to the talismonger, Algernon. He said that he knew a place where they could get help. It won't be easy for them, or quick, but they'll get better in time. We didn't see Marta again after she ran off. Do you think she's okay? Her expression clouds. I don't know. I don't even know if I want her to be. She was the first person I ever really loved, but it doesn't make up for all the pain that she's caused. Harrow did a hell of a job on her. If she's alive, she probably thinks that she was saving the kids that she lured to the Forestella. I feel sick just thinking about it. She looks away. Let's talk about something else, Minerva. I'd rather not dwell on this if I don't have to. That answers all of my questions. Thanks for taking the time to talk. Anytime, Minerva. And thanks again. I mean that. Alright, hopefully we get some money. I think I put some pay data before we did the last run. So, the cool blue tones of the workstation's main menu fill you the screen. A blinking message in the upper right corner notifies you that you have 0 unread messages. Let's access the Shadowland BBS. Shadowland connection established successfully. Link strength 100%, spoofing 1, group info null, anon. Welcome to Shadowland. Claim payment for sold pay data. Pending transactions, Harrow's bribe records. Winning bid 300 nuyen, escrow fee 10% of minus 30 nuyen, funds sent to Minerva's account 270. So that kind of pays for some of the med kits. Do I have pay data? No. Search BBS for relevant keywords. Topics matching local keywords. Thread, F-state protection. The writers have it on good authority that the Lobachevsky Syndicate is eyeing the Schottenest for expansion. For the good of the Flux, we should keep a watchful eye on the situation. See attached files for more details. Shockwell and writers. Okay, bad news for Schottenest. But if Rambach isn't going to stop them, and I hear Surf Turf is out of the picture, well, I'm sure there's some poly club out there who wants a piece of the pie. I know we've got enough of them. Tolstoy. I know that Humanist has some presence there, but I doubt they'll fight the Russians too much. I'd say they're far more likely to form a partnership. Ruby. No more posts in this thread. Thread. Energy sources. I've got solar panels like everybody, but does anyone have experience with these mana turbine services? I'm off the grid, so there's some times when I need to do some late night decking or maintenance on my telescoping limbs. Alan at Albit. Is that the thing where the mage comes by and drops some juice into a generator? My buddy was telling me about that last week. The turbine spins the mana around and the charge lasts for weeks, he said. Wraith Lake 44. They're a scam, chummer. That mage is going to be out of there with your money before you realize how much power you've actually got. You're better off peddling a bike battery. Tolstoy. No more posts in this thread. Jobs directory? Pharma cleanup job. Amstel's face winks onto the screen. Here you'll find a complete transcript from my conversation with Herr Fuchs, a potential client. The job seems relatively straightforward and the payout is reasonable. One word of caution before you proceed. There are aspects of this run that you might find morally troubling. Be sure to read and understand the specifics of the job before accepting. If you do accept, you will be expected to carry out the requirements of the job in full. After reading the transcript, you may choose whether or not to accept the job. If you respond in the affirmative, our client will be notified and I will make the necessary preparations for the run. Herr Amsel? Yes, I am here. To whom am I speaking? You may call me Herr Fuchs. Very well. Please describe the work that you would like to have done. Straight to the point. I like that. Very well. I would like to retain your team's services to clean up a mess. Go on. My employer has dispatched a team of operatives to conduct a quiet operation at the local Sharing Pharma AG lab. Unfortunately, they botched the job. The team was eliminated, and we have reliable information that one of the operatives has been taken captive. If this rogue agent were to spill information leading back to my employers, it could lead to a corporate war. A great many lives could be lost. My employers would like nothing more than to prevent such a tragic turn of events. I see. And you'd like to retain my team's services to tie up loose ends. Exactly. The captive operative is a rigger by the name of Thorvald Enstad. We need him neutralized before he can inform on us to his captors. As Enstad and his team have already put the facility on high alert, stealth will not be an option. Your team will need to shoot its way in, eliminate Enstad, and exit the facility. A straightforward enough task and well within my team's capabilities. What are you offering in terms of pay? 15,000 nuyen. The offer is non-negotiable. Very well, I will pass this on to my team. Very good. Good day, Herr Amsel. So, I'm kind of tempted to do that for the extra money, but I know a majority of that's going to go to the Alice Fund. So I don't know what happens to the Alice Fund afterwards. So I'm going to decline for now. We'll see if I get jobs after we pay for what we need. And I'll probably have some extra karma that I can put towards weapons. So I'm going to talk to Amsel before I take out the cred stick. Minerva, greetings. Amsel peers at you through a battered old pair of wire-rimmed glasses. There's something gentle about the man, with his silver hair and tweed jacket. He looks more like an aging art history professor than he does a criminal go-between. Is there something I can do for you? I need your password to transfer Alice's payment onto a cred stick. Amsel sucks in a deep breath. He suddenly looks as though an enormous weight has been lifted from his shoulders. Yes, very good. Excellent, in fact. This has been a long time in coming, Minerva. You're telling me. Amsel turns to open a file on his computer. All right, Minerva. Before you make this transfer, there are a few things that you should know. Firstly, this is a one-way operation. Once the funds have been transferred to the cred stick, the only person who will be able to access them is Alice. As far as the team is concerned, the money will simply disappear. Are you sure that we can trust Alice? I am. Believe me, her reputation in the Shadow community is worth far more than 50,000 nuyen. She will deliver the information that she promised. You have to be up in 3 hours of work, have a fantastic stream. I definitely will have a fantastic stream. I know I kind of idled out a little bit here, but I hope everybody's having fun. It is definitely, likewise, it is definitely a pleasure to chat with you, Akadak. I have no idea how many streams you had open, but the fact that you spent any time in here, especially with so many emotes, means a lot to me. So thank you very much. I hope you get enough sleep tonight, or that tomorrow is at least kind enough to you. But have a good one, and we'll see you next time. And hopefully I get a chance to catch one of your Chrono Trigger streams soon. I should check too. I know I've been doing a little bit of reading in a bit of a monotone voice, but how's everybody doing out there? I see a few active people. Amsel shrugs. Besides, what other choice do we have? We cannot run, and the money will do us little good if we're dead. I suppose that's true. Okay, keep going. What was your second thing? Secondly, once you make your way to the rabbit hole with the funds, it's go time. I trust that you understand what I mean by that. You have tabs for days. That's really great that you support people that way. That's good, Wedgie. I know you must be... I think Claire is probably streaming right now, so I know you've got your duties. Alright, second, once you make it your way to the rabbit hole with the funds, it's go time. I trust that you understand what I mean by that. We drop everything and head straight to the rabbit hole. Correct. Once you've left to see Alice, her information will be your only priority. No more distractions and no more side work. I will busy myself cancelling your remaining jobs and smoothing any ruffled feathers. Okay, so I don't get to do the 15,000 job. That's fine though. It's not worth. I don't think it's worth it. I'll maybe save before I go further, just in case I need to buy some more medkits or something like that. But I have a feeling that a combat mission is going to cost me. Makes sense. Anything else? Just that you need to be sure before committing to this. Time is important. A great dragon wants us dead, and that is not a thing to take lightly. But you shouldn't return to the rabbit hole until you're prepared to act. If you have any doubts, I'd urge you to wait. I understand. I'm ready to proceed. He breathes a sigh of relief. Excellent. The password is Volkingen. Once you're en route to the rabbit hole with the funds for Alice's payment, I will cancel the team's remaining obligation. Understood. I have to say, Minerva, this lifts an enormous weight off my shoulders. When Monica brought you on board, I was initially unsure about you. I would never have said that to anyone else, of course, but I kept you under a watchful eye. I can see now that I needn't have doubted her judgment. She chose her successor well. Now please, go fetch the information from Alice. He claps a hand on your shoulder. We're one step closer to surviving this mess. So, I am going to save just in case I put myself in a... Oh, can't save. Never mind. Transfer 50,000 to Alice's secured cred stick payment. Oh, seriously? What's the damn word? Volkingen. Volklingen. There we go. So, from a design perspective, I don't know German. I don't see exactly how the game is enhanced by making me type out that word. It's a minor complaint, but yeah. The funds disappear from your account. Moments later, a message pops up on the screen. Transfer complete. Sitting in its dock on a keyboard, a green LED blooms to life on Alex's cred stick. The trigger has been pulled. The rabbit hole awaits. So it definitely feels like this is going to be the end. Oh, wow. I thought everybody would be at the top level by now. It's definitely feeling like this is kind of the end game, but I actually don't know how long it is. Looking at the achievements, it seems like a really, really big game. So, where would you like to travel? Travel to the rabbit hole at the Altstadt-Spandau U-Bahn station to retrieve Alice's data. Down the rabbit hole. The tiny cred stick feels heavy in your pocket, fat with the weight of hard-won nuyen. The U-Bahn station swallows you up and sends you hurtling down the rabbit hole, towards Alice, towards the information you've bled for. The train pulls to a stop and the doors hiss open to a dark old platform. With luck, answers lie ahead. Alice's console stands alone against a filthy wall of the U-Bahn platform. The colorful sprites that flicker towards the screen stand in sharp contrast to the surrounding grime. Insert Alice's payment into the machine. The cred stick port in the machine greedily accepts your payment. You watch as the black plastic of the cred stick's case disappears into the console. Moments later, the familiar sight of Alice's office winks onto the screen. Something is wrong here. You can see it in Alice's face. Her eyes are open just a little too wide, her smile just a little too forced. It's a look that you've never seen. It's a look you've seen before, all too often. Underneath her polished exterior, Alice, the Alice, is terrified. Hold a moment. I'm transferring your payment now. Alice's attention is fixed on the PDA mounted to her wrist. A moment passes. Then she nods, lowers her arm, and shifts her gaze to you. Her smile looks forced, and her eyes keep darting back to the clock on the wall. Everything seems to be in order. Good. What's up with the clock? You waiting for something? Without a word, she bends to grab something from under her desk. A moment later, she lifts an aluminum briefcase onto your desk. Your information. She flips the case onto the desk, then shoves it toward the camera. As the briefcase goes larger to the screen, you can hear the whine of motors spinning up in the arcade cabinet's guts. With a smooth mechanical motion, a generic brand of optical chip slides out of the payment port in front of you. Alice kicks her seat back and stands. Her movements are becoming more and more erratic. Your answers are on the chip. She checks the clock again. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to run. What are you running from, Alice? She pauses, then takes a deep breath and exhales it slowly. Tries to calm herself, but the panic winds out, and she begins to tremble. You'll find out. And Minerva, a free piece of advice. You should drop your search for Voltaire. Drop it now and run far, far away. If you don't, you're going to get yourself killed. She leans in to stare at the camera. On the screen, you can see that her eyes are badly bloodshot. And stay out of the Matrix, Minerva. It isn't safe. Abruptly, the screen goes black. Alice is gone. The optical chip sits in its cradle, waiting for you to take it. Take the chip. The instant that the chip leaves its cradle, the machine reboots itself. You are again alone. As you settle in for your trip back to the Kreutz Bazaar, you can feel the rest of the world compartmentalize and fall away. No more distractions, just you, the train, and the optical chip. It sits in your pocket like a hot stone, impossible to ignore. The train ramps up to speed, lifting the air with a monotonous electric whir. The sound is soft, low, and urgent, like the droning wings of an enormous insect. It'd be soothing if your mind wasn't occupied with other matters. All at once, the monotony is broken. Your PDA is buzzing. A quick glance at the screen tells you you're receiving a call and that Paul Amstel is on the other end. Answer the call. You hit the receive button on your PDA. One look at the grainy image that blossoms to life on the screen is enough to tell you that something has gone terribly wrong. The strangled sounds of panicked breathing punch through the PDA's tiny speakers. In the image window, you can see outlines of figures silhouetted against the backdrop of Amstel's shop. The view rotates, bringing them towards the center of the frame. The image sharpens. In the center of the screen stands an enormous orc in battle armor, a hand cannon leveled at something out of frame. His face is a shiny mat of grafted tissue. His smile is like something out of a nightmare. Say nothing. You watch powerless as the orc's grin widens. The frantic breaths you hear coming from off-screen increase in frequency. From off-screen you hear Amstel's frantic voice. Aldrin, please, tell me what this is all about. What are the Flyer Wings plans? You're going to kill me anyway. Don't send me to the grave without... Your stomach drops as the gun bucks and roars in the orc's hand. The view of your PDA pitches wildly, then comes to a sudden stop with a violent cracking sound, and a burst of static floods the screen. Moments later, a dark shape falls into view with equivalent force. You hear the unmistakable sound of bone crunching against hardwood. The camera auto-adjusts, and the dark shape swims into focus. You are staring into and through the dripping cavernous ruin of what used to be a human head. The remnants on the face that remain are enough to confirm what your gut already knows. The body on the screen is that of Paul Amstel. From out of frame far away, you can hear another voice, a woman, young from the sound of it, with a military cadence. What now, sir? Now we press our advantage. Jam their comms, Ortega. The sound of hurried motion recede into the background. All right, remember, people. Amstel is the brains of the operation, but the rest will put up a lot more fight. Flush them out and take them down, one by one. Another voice chimes in, a young man this time. Sir, look at Amstel's wrist, the PDA. I think it's recording. God fucking damn it. You hear the roar of another gunshot and the screen goes dark. Your vision swims, and the screen of your PDA seems to fade away. The impact of what you just witnessed hammers you in your gut, over and over again. Amstel is dead, the Kreutz Bazaar is under attack, and it's entirely possible that an ambush party is already waiting to meet you at the U-Bahn platform. Whatever your attackers planned, you won't be able to do much about it from here. The train is speeding towards the Kreutzbazaar station. No more stops between you and the enemy. Nothing to do but prepare yourself and wait. The barrel of Eiger's rifle swings upward. She emerges from cover, turning to face you. About time you showed up. The light plays off Eiger's face like a streetlight on a rain-slick asphalt. Her face, neck, and chest are sheeted in slick, dark liquid. Blood. A lot of blood. Eiger, are you alright? I'm fine. He only nicked my thigh. Eiger wipes her mouth with the back of her hand, then hoists a corpse up from behind the makeshift barricade. A young man, maybe in his early 20s, his eyes frozen wide in surprise. What's left of his throat hangs down in ragged flaps. This up here isn't mine. Good God. God gave me tusks for a reason. I don't think he'll mind that I used them. Did you meet with Alice? Do you have our information? Yeah, I got it. An optical chip. We'll have to use my mission computer to open it. Whatever's on that chap, these bastards don't want us to read it. All the more reason to do exactly that, after we put the rest of them in the ground, that is. Eiger, they killed Paul. I saw it. Eiger's expression hardens. Yeah, I know. He had us all patched in on the call. We saw what happened. I figured they'd try to ambush you at the platform, ventilate the train, take you out, and cut a potential escape route in the process. She shrugs. It's what I would do, so I hightailed it out here and set up an ambush of my own. Thanks, Eiger. She smirks at you. Save it. I'm here to protect that optical chip. That thing costs us 50 grand after all. Anyway, that's enough talk. We've got a job to do. Eiger swings her rifle up over her shoulder. There are an unknown number of hostiles topside. They're well equipped, decently trained, and hell-bent on killing us. Last I heard, Glory was at the north end of town. Dietrich was out getting coffee when all hell broke loose. Let's go get them. Let's go hunting. +1 action point. Your experience has increased your ability to operate in dangerous situations. Alright. I think that's the game just being nice to me. So let's spend our karma. And at this point, there's definitely no benefit for charisma, so let's... Oh, not shotgun. So got a couple points in rifle, and then 2 left over. Oh, the rain's a nice touch. Okay, I need to get in... Yeah, this will have to do for cover. I really don't like any of my cover options here. Actually, this one... It's not as good as this one, but it... Yeah, I'll go for it. Well, I mean, because I'm kind of already committed. I guess the question here is, do I want Eiger to be out in the open? Probably not. So I'll give her that cover. And what's the rifle? Rifle's not going to have any good aim, so I think we'll just ventilate the mercenary. For one of those, and then finish him off. Poor doggy. I don't even know which ones are friends or enemies. Oh, that's fantastic. He's out in the open and inactive. Okay, so what I'll do here actually is I'll... Oh, I can't do the same scatter shot. That sucks. So I'll try and take advantage of the burst fire. It's not, I mean, in one sense, it's not the best target just because he's out, and I could technically be taking out this Hired Mage, but he is behind cover, so in this case, it's nice to do what I can to the Mercenary. And let's use our aimed shot, because I know I'm going to need to reload after anyway. Damn it. Okay. Combat's going well. Wow. So in this case, I need to get in slightly better cover. Minerva's got a fairly obvious choice here. Eiger. Yeah, I'll just do one of these. And sadly, I gotta reload. Something ahead of you lets out a low, rumbling growl from the shadows, a primordial sound that echoes down from the snowy streets. It steps into the light. Dante. Even from this distance, you can feel the hate radiating from the enormous dog's body. He locks eyes with you, and you can see the fire burning from within him. He takes a step forward, hackles raised. Eiger glances at you. Her voice is calm, but you can see the unease in her face. I forgot to mention, fearless leader. Your dog's acting funny. How long has he been like this? Beats me. I caught sight of him on the way down to the U-Bahn platform. He looked normal enough. Then one of these bastards took a shot at him and winged him. Big mistake. Dante got mad. Real mad. He started shaking and twitching. I saw the fire in his eyes. He was on the guy before I could blink. A few seconds later, the shooter was a red smear on the sidewalk. And Dante? Eiger stabs a thumb in the dog's direction. Looked like this. Hey, Dante. Hey, boy. How you doing? Dante lowers his head, the hackles on his back of his neck standing stiff. He takes another step towards you and Eiger. I don't think that's working, Minerva. It'll work. Easy, buddy. Easy now. Slowly the wind begins to shift. He sniffs the air, looking at you, to Eiger, then back to you. Acknowledgement washes across his face, and his expression softens. His ears stand back up, and you could swear that you see him smile. Dante takes his place by your side. Well, whatever he is, I'm glad he's on our team. Let's find the others. I always wanted my own Hellhound. So I'm actually going to go north for Glory first. Oh, you know what? I forgot to ask Simi Kim on that last mission. I'm actually going to Glory first just because she's got such a strong combat ability. So they've all got more or less equivalent armor. I'll do the Conjurer first, though. Or should I? Because Conjurer... Yeah, out in the open. Now, this is actually a tough one. I think what I'm going to do is use an aimed shot and hope that that takes out the Conjurer. That's 20 damage. I don't think that's going to be enough, actually. Well, I'll start with an aim shot. Oh, nice. And let's start with an... Yeah, we'll start with a kneecap. And just keep firing. Took you long enough. So we'll start with our compound attack. Let's take the mercenary first. Ooh, and I have Dante as well. I can't use Fireball. Alright. Let's go and chomp down on a mercenary then. Wow, they really supercharge your team for these fights. So I'll just keep working on the one mercenary. Hopefully that can take him off the board and then Glory can finish him off. No such luck. I think I'll do a scatter shot just because I don't think 61% is that great of a hit chance. Well, not as a 67, but it did the trick, so... And then I can take advantage of my rifle. We'll do Deadeye just to be sure. So again, similar ideas that I operate on most of the combat, which is just try and take as many pieces off the board as I can. And in that case, it was pretty effective. And in this case, I'll go to D-Trick next, just because I want to... As cool as it would be to use stuff in the safe house, I kind of want to have my whole team together, as I suspect there's going to be a fight. Alright then. I hope that's cover I'm behind. It doesn't tell me. I think it's probably smartest to take out the mage. They're usually the weakest, and dealing with zombies and whatever the hell they raise is... Well, they don't actually raise zombies, but generally they just bring summons that I don't want to deal with. So actually, this is an interesting point. So if I go for the troll at 70 HP, if I go for the mercenary here, it's 50 HP. The big thing is that both of their guns are going to do the same damage. So it's actually wiser for me to go after the mercenary in this case, as it's taking them out of the action earlier, and then disabling the mercenary. I mean, first of all, he's closer, so Glory will be able to possibly take out his AP. But basically, unless I was actually engaging them in physical combat, the troll's advantage is just that he can soak up a lot of damage. Looks like she's not close enough for a compound attack. It's gonna mean she takes some fight. Over here, boss. Okay, well this is good D-Trick, so how do we handle this? Let's see if I can actually give haste to... I can. Excellent. And she misses. Alright, well, we'll at least take the mercenary out. We will not take the mercenary out. Oh, okay. Can we do fireball? Not without burning Glory. And we can't reach the mercenary either, but we can reach this one. Well, here's what I'll do. I'll go... Now, the problem here is that everybody's clumped up, so this guy might be able to throw a grenade, but let's see if I can do Flame Breath. Didn't finish him off. The burn will probably fix it. Okay, so I'll get Glory to move first, just because she's got the most movement points, and also is going to be able to strip this guy's armor. And it really sucks that she missed the... It sucks that she missed the AP attack, just because this guy can actually do some pretty... Either he does some heavy damage, or he takes up a lot of our time trying to take him down. I don't know if the shotgun's going to glance a ally. Okay, good, it missed. And I don't have line of sight to him, so I kind of have to run out into the middle of the street like an idiot. Okay, so how does D-Trick handle this? I could run. Yeah, well, any of these are going to take 2, so... Okay, cool. So I think in this case... Oh, Petrify. So that's a fantastic ability just because that gives me some extra time to move my team in position. Let's get Eiger to do her thing. No, actually, let's get... She's going to be using a sniper rifle, so in this case here, I actually want to get my armor stripper. Although I guess that's an AP attack, that's not actually an armor. Oh well. It'd be good to get Minerva in cover, but it feels like a really good opportunity to take this guy down. Okay, so sniper should finish him off. Cool. Dietrich, glad to see you all made it here alive. Dietrich straightens, his joints cracking under the strain. He takes a step in your direction, his expression grim. Listen, boss, we got problems. I saw a group of these jackasses peel off a few minutes ago. They made a beeline for the sewers. They were carrying bombs, Minerva. Can't say what yield, but they look big. Unless you fancy living in a crater, I'd suggest we hightail it down there. I agree, but after we check the safe house. Corpse. Paul's lifeless body lies crumpled on the floor. The majority of his head has been splattered across the opposite wall. The DVD player is completely trashed. Some kind of automatic lockdown system is engaged. Oh, so there's nothing we can do in the... Well, that was educational. I can't remember where we access the sewers from here, actually, but... Oh, it's got a yellow pointer, so I don't need to. Sorry, I know the dialogue hasn't been as... creative. I actually found, so compared to all of the other fights in the game, this is actually one of the most relatively straightforward. So I didn't feel like I had a whole lot to offer on it. Beneath the Kreutz Bazaar. You and your team descend into the sewers, footsteps echoing off the damp stone walls. You barely notice the smell. There's no time to waste. Audrin's team of mercenaries is down there somewhere, racing to plant the explosive charges beneath the Keats. The fate of the Kreutz Bazaar is in your hands. But yeah, so this definitely felt like a little bit more of a straightforward encounter than some of the other ones. Which is a nice change of pace, though, because I know I'd been complaining for a while that it felt like there was a little bit too much sort of combat objectives. Oh, neat! So I have to defuse everything in time. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make it Eiger, Dietrich, and Glory Minerva. I guess I should take... Dante will go on the Minerva side. Kind of frustrating to try and move. There we go. I'm gonna try at least basically to just run as fast as I can. This is probably gonna come back to bite me, but I'd rather not like waste a bunch of turns. So yeah, this stuff I'm not too worried about. I think I'll get Eiger to move first. Okay, there we go. This actually seems like a good time to use that special grenade. And let's make it... I think I need tempo, so... Okay, so what do we do with Minerva? Okay, these ghouls aren't hostile, so let's get Glory to move first. That sucks. I'm gonna get hit from behind, but I think I can afford one turn of that. As for Dietrich, I don't actually have a good spot to put him. But I do want him involved in this, so I'll just move him a little bit behind Eiger. The problem with this is they are in danger of getting a grenade, but... Oh, are you kidding me? Alright, let's do... Dragon Slayer Idol. That's just so I can soak up some of the damage. And I'll send the doggy in after the mage. Yeah, saw that coming. Wow. Okay, well, no more AoE effects. Well, that was effective. Let's... Okay, what do we do with Eiger? I think here I can't take everybody out, so let's start with a scatter shot and fail. So now we basically just need to drop bodies. Oh, that's a good start. Damn it. Okay, I actually think it might make sense to haste Eiger in this case, because I don't think he's going to quite put out enough damage per turn to do what I want. And this is a tough call, right, because I can do so much more damage. You know what, in this case I am actually going to leave him up, and that's just so I can get another shot at the guy behind. This is bad because he can potentially throw a grenade, but I also think Dietrich can actually do enough damage to take him out, so I kind of want to be a little bit more efficient in terms of how I'm distributing the damage. Yeah, so a bit of a shame that Eiger got hit by that, but... Now, one thing I'm thinking here is I've actually kind of got this room under control, so I'm actually going to use Dante to move, to actually move ahead and take out the third room with the bomb. Oh, we lost the guy who was weak. Probably not that wise to use Glory to do that, but